Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're
the Ghouls next door. Yeah.
I don't know why I started laughing, but that's for you.
It's already
people.
funny. We haven't even said words to you guys yet.
Yeah,
our own names are funny now.
Yeah.
Starting the new year strong.
It was the anxiety leading up to the fact that I knew I had to do it. So
how do we podcast? Yeah.
When did we make one of those? 2020, I guess.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah. And
welcome.
We're here and we're in the future where everything's bright and beautiful and there's endless possibilities.
And none of it's real.
And you can be whatever you want. Like, not just like...
But is it real, though?
As motivation of like, go out and do stuff. Like, no, like you can put yourself somewhere and live lives that aren't yours. Yeah,
so it's not real, though, right? Am I following the theme?
Is it not real?
Of the episode?
Yeah.
Virtual reality?
Yeah. We are talking about reality of the virtual nature.
Dope.
Which is also like, well, I think we'll touch on a little bit of AR and XR as well. And I'll educate you guys on what that is, but it's a new technology that we have going on and people are pretty excited about. It's super fun. Get one of those headsets on it. It also can be a little jarring.
Yeah.
But there's some cool things going on with it, but also some really terrifying things going on with it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a time.
But we're here for it because it's 2020.
Yeah.
It's that kind of time.
Yeah.
So it's even if you don't want to be here, you're here now. So everything's on fire, but we're here. It's fine.
Yeah. But we can just go into the virtual reality headset where it's not burning.
Yeah, when we destroy the whole world, we just put a new one on our head.
Yeah.
And pretend that one's cool.
Sounds perfect.
Dope.
Yeah, facts. We tell you facts. All the facts. Your facts. Still facts. About that spooky stuff. Yeah, spooky stuff.
So yeah, now we're talking about virtual reality. In case you didn't know, virtual reality is like reality.
Is this real life?
But virtual now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not. It's virtual life.
And it's interesting because like in its current form, it's still pretty just like audio visual.
Yeah.
And not so much based in like kind of like the sensational versions of it where we see like you can feel what's there, like all that kind of stuff. I feel like I would argue if you're playing a game where you're killing things, you don't want to feel nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm fine
weird.
with the audio visual. Like, let's just pretend this is still a game.
Yeah.
Time.
Degree of separation.
Yes. Degree of separation that keeps us sane. Because otherwise it's all just sex. And then which we will talk about.
Virtual reality, that there are like weird sex rooms now.
Well, it's just like, this is what is going to happen.
No, I'm pretty sure they already exist.
Oh yeah, no, they do. In like games in general, they already exist. Especially ones where you like are online. Like there's 100% like virtual relationships.
Like Second Life. Second Life, you can get married and buy a house.
Yeah.
Or you could. It's now a wasteland. Yeah. But you could have.
Yeah. I played for a little bit just to see what it was, but I was like a little bit too young.
I was afraid. Yeah, I wasn't allowed.
Yeah. I was not monitored, so. My internet self reigned supreme and what's the word?
Unmonitored? You said that already.
Or just like unyielded. I could do whatever I wanted.
That makes sense.
Yes. But yeah, virtual reality in its like current form is like primarily audio visual. It's used kind of like as a tool to enhance an experience, kind of like be more immersive, see us like be more in it. Specifically like in ways to like educate people has been like the biggest thing that they've really been pushing VR in like an education setting.
Yeah.
Like for virtual field trips, virtual language immersion, like online classes, so that you can feel like you're more present and like you're actually like doing it. You're not just having Facebook open on the side while you listen to a lecture that you're not listening to.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Get them
like
credits.
It kind of like helps the immersiveness of it. And, helps people feel like they're actually more in it than they are. Because like there is that degree of separation when you're doing something educational on the computer where if you lose focus, there's lots of other things to distract you on the internet. So the idea is like, it's trying to make you more present and more there.
Yeah.
But specifically in terms of like the medical field, like you can do virtual reality to practice surgery, practice
to get it,
medical
like,
things.
proper.
If you're in the army or the place with the guns, you can
Military?
be military. That's the word. Thank you, Gabe.
Yeah.
Gabe from the Ghouls Next Door. Military.
Got it in one.
If you're in the military, you can use that as like ways to hone your accuracy, stuff like that. Like there's lots of different ways to use virtual reality to help people.
Yeah.
I will say in terms of education, we already are in like a technology wasteland in a lot of areas of the world.
Yeah.
So like adding virtual reality is just like another way people who are in disenfranchised communities will be further behind.
Smart.
People don't even have like enough desks
Yeah.
or books that aren't from this time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, or a library or just like enough teachers.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah. I
you
will
know,
say
it's not the end all be all, but it's
Yeah.
cool.
there are places that are trying to benefit communities in that way. Specifically, like libraries have some programs and certain schools have programs where kids can learn things like that.
Yeah.
And so that it can be more accessible. Because there is like, you're correct, is that this can advance us, which means that like there's going to cause a bigger gap from those who are now just restricted to books from 1996.
Yeah, or don't have internet at home. Like it's like it's
and
like
net
really
neutrality
real.
is going around. You know, yeah. I will say. So I work in television, so and VR and AR, XR, all of it, which I will explain the differences of. I have kind of been diving into that a lot over the last few years, in that it is like this emerging media that can be very beneficial. And I've been to many many workshops and different meetings and things where I've had AR, VR, XR explained to me a million times, and also like I have always seen it be run by like the medical world, or an education, like from an educational viewpoint, where, you know, they're looking at like cells and they're able to identify like cancerous ones just like through that, so that when they do see it on like a scan or something, they're easier to find it. And even like video games, which we didn't talk about last week, is that there are certain video games that are like puzzles that have helped us kind of like figure out the code essentially of certain diseases, because it makes your brain look at a problem in a different way. So you're just kind of like trying to solve this puzzle, right? And then it's like, oh, we figured out what AIDS is, like how it works. And now we can further deconstruct that to figure out how to like beat that, which by the way, Temple, my alum, is doing.
Yeah.
And has already made great waves doing.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Like in terms of like, I'd say higher education, it's a really great thing that's happening. And I mean, it's also being used in a variety of different places. So it's being used for STEM. It's being used. I know that when I was younger, I didn't want to dissect the animals, but specifically the pigs.
Yeah.
They brought in pigs. And I was like, absolutely no. But they let me do it virtually. Not with VR, like on the computer, but I imagine now that you could dissect things instead of having to use real animals. You could just do it virtually, and that would
wonderful.
be really cool.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of ways that like this could really benefit us. Specifically, there was actually a study done that was like ways to help people deal with their phobias. So like a way to decrease fear over like something that is happening in the real world through the virtual world. Specifically at Oxford University, there was a randomized controlled trial led by Oxford that found therapy delivered through virtual reality helped people who had fear of heights. So basically 34 out of the 49 people who used the VR treatment started like to get over their fear, because it was basically like you were in a 10-story building, you went up each level, you practiced walking over things and seeing what's underneath of you, and like just kind of like exposure therapy, but not without any real danger.
Yeah, like you're very, very safe, and you know that. And so like there's a comfort that comes with that allows you to like kind of breathe a little, I guess, like to allow yourself to like be like, okay, let's do this. It's just like horror movies.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a really big spike in survival horror VR that, like, that's something that people find really exciting and is, like, people want to do because it's taking the ways that, like, movies reach you and, like, taking it that extra step. Mm-hmm. So, like, you still do have a degree of separation, but it's significantly less than all the other versions that exist.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't have a controller taking you out of it.
Yeah.
You don't have a, like, screen that's in your living room and you're seeing your cat walk by while the zombies are attacking you. You know, like, it feel like you hear the things as if they are real, but you also know that none of it is.
Yeah, that at any point you can take it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, I know specifically when my brother visited me this past summer, we went to Dave & Buster's and there was the Jurassic Park virtual reality. And that thing is scary.
Yeah.
In that you turn your head and there is a giant T-Rex roaring at you, and like you also like dive off into water. Like, it was very scary, but very cool because it's like, oh, I take it off and I'm back at Dave & Buster's. That was nice. No real fear actually existing, but it was like really fun. Like, you got like a really great adrenaline rush.
You were not at Isla Nublar.
Yeah, and there's also ways like it benefits people with like dyslexia, people with like learning disabilities. It helps them like see things in a different way, but also like helps people who like have trouble focusing kind of reach that like more I am present, I am here kind of thing.
I think something that's I think people don't even consider with like XR is that there is also this chance of promoting empathy because you're literally being put into someone's shoes. Like, it's not like perfected, right?
Yeah.
But there are several like actual like 360 videos that you can experience in VR where it's like an abuse situation or like an emergency situation, and you're put in there where you're like, oh, okay, like I understand like what this feels like because I am being subjected to the same thing. And it makes people more empathetic when they're like, they encounter someone who's been in that in real life.
Yeah.
And like, I actually did I've done a CPR course several times. Yeah. Very versed in CPR. But I actually took one somewhat recently that was VR, where they put a thing over you, or like, it was like, it's like Google Cardboard kind of VR. But it was like, you know, a little thing that they put on, you could hear. And it was like you were in a situation where someone falls. Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh. And you have to go and do the, you know, call 911. I need, you know, all that stuff. Yeah. But it's kind of different than when you're in a class full of people and you just have the dummy there and you're like, stay in the left, stay in the left. You know, but instead you're like, oh my gosh, like,
and then Dwight turns around and he cut the mannequin's face off. It's,
what?
You know what? It's Office. Okay. You're welcome.
You know I don't watch that.
I know.
But it was an interesting experience, and that I was like really put into that position. And it makes you think, like, if that really happens in real life, I feel like I am a little more prepared because I had to see it like that, even though it was virtual and it wasn't like, they didn't look like people entirely, you know, more so than when I was in the class and it was just this dummy, because it was just like, yeah, I'm doing it. But I feel like now if I was in that position, I'm already kind of like that level of like, the shock is gone.
Well, yeah, because there's like the bystander effect. So like essentially, I think having the virtual bystanders around you that are actually acting as if this is real adds to it a good amount.
It's like, they're not doing nothing. I got to do something.
Kyle from accounting is laughing as you, I don't know. I don't know Kyle. I don't work in accounting, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so everyone knows what VR is. That's virtual reality. Yes. There's also AR, which is augmented reality, which is where you have virtual things over real things. So like superimposed over it as if it is in your real space. The best example of this is Pokemon Go. If you play Pokemon Go and you put on the filter where it doesn't have just the, like when you put it into the world.
I think it's called XR.
I think so.
When you click the button.
Yeah, AR. And you click it, you like scroll it over, and now Pikachu is like on your desk at work. Yeah. You know, or like you're walking and you see, you know, a Squirtle, right? Yeah. So that's what AR is. So that's augmented reality. And that's what we see in Playtest in Black Mirror, which we'll talk about, right? Is this kind of like it's supplanted over what we're doing. Stuff. But you're using like some kind of device to see it, which is really cool. If like, what I think is really interesting is the way that you can interact with it without like using a tool the way that like VR helmets need it, right? Whereas like people have done like, they'll like study like biology, they'll have like a body in front of them, even though they don't. So they could be homesick and not in class, but they have the body in front of them and they can like move things and check out things and be like, oh, I see this is the lungs or whatever, you know, and you're interacting with this thing using your phone. Right.
Yeah.
XR is essentially like X is just a variable for any type of blank reality.
Okay.
Because there's a multitude of things. Like we have QR codes, right? So like if you see a little code, and now they're even better because now phones can respond to just images. Like we don't even need those weird codes anymore. You could just say, when you see, like program the phone to say like, when you see this picture of Chucky doll, right, you now do this thing. And now maybe like there's a, you know, AR version of Chucky running around. Based off of that one picture that he saw, or it looks like he comes out or something, right? Yeah. So it's just like there's an infinite reason, like ways that we can use like our new kind of like virtual-ish reality in what we're doing. But I think like the empathy thing is really interesting in that we are kind of put in there, and we had, like we talked about last week, was like with video games, right? We're using it to put ourselves into the shoes of these people that I wouldn't even say we aspire to be. It's just an escape.
Yeah,
right?
It's just something different. It's like, it's either filling a need or it's just, I don't know what it would be like to be a cleric.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or a robot.
Yeah. Like, this is what I feel most powerful doing.
Yeah.
And just putting myself into. And if you have something like VR, you can only further do that, which can be very beneficial for people who might have, you know, like problems with their own identity. Right? Like there might be ways in which their life does not allow them to be true to themselves, right? Like how many people do we know play like a different gender, right? Yeah. Or play something that doesn't have a gender because they're like, screw that. Yeah. You know, like before we were like, you know, making strides in gender, like against gender norms, right?
Yeah.
I think there's some breaking in that. And there's also this like, so like escapism is a lot stronger with virtual reality. Definitely. Because you really, really can kind of lose yourself in it. Like to the point where like you ever put someone in there and then like, so we have a VR helmet at Philly Cam. Yeah. And my boss was wearing it and it was just like this aquarium. So we're looking on the screen at what she's looking at. Yeah. Which is also kind of fun, right? And she like turned and there was like this like fish that swam by really fast next to her and you just see her like, ooh, she like jumped back and it was really funny for us, but it's like that was real for a minute, you know, like our brain has to kind of like juggle two thoughts, right? Yeah. Like this is fake and also like, whoa, this is really real.
But it's there though.
Yeah. But also my body is going to react, you know, the way it should. And I think, you know, we didn't get to talk about this last week, but Second Life came about during the Iraq War. Yeah. And that was like a big deal because it really was escapism. It's literally your second life, right? Yeah. People can use the game money and they put a lot of their real money into it to buy houses. There were people in there who were walking around in the identities that they felt comfortable with, finding love, building entire lives. To the point where some of it has been toxic. There was like articles in which like, there was one article I read in, I want to say it was Korea, but I'm not entirely sure, where there was like a couple that neglected their child because they had their own life in like a Second Life type game where they had a digital girl that they were taking care of. Okay. But that's just like that person was they were already sick. Yeah. You know, like clearly they probably shouldn't have had that baby. Yeah. But there is this like, there was this opportunity, right, to get away from this reality that was so scary. And it's kind of like the economy there was kind of like Bitcoin and like where people like jumped into it because they were like, oh my gosh, what can you, like there were 2 billionaires because of it. Now we got to do this, right? Yeah. And now, if you went on to Second Life, it is like a wasteland. Yeah. It was also a way for like brands to kind of like circumvent and try to get in there, and they would make these big parks or areas that were used as like advertisements for like political parties, for just like brands like Mountain Dew or something. Like you could go to a place that was super fun and you're partying, and it was just like Doritos everywhere. Yeah, no, I played a few times, and I remember like having. I wasn't able to give real money to it because I was like 16. Yeah. But like, I remember like loving like shopping experience and getting like free stuff. That was so fun. And like going to like places and learning how to dance. Like there was a place where you could like learn to dance. Like that was the activity that you did. Aww. It was really cool. So nice.
And I hated talking to real people, so like talking to fake people was like, this is cool.
Yeah, but you can also talk to real people too.
Yeah, but like the negative end is like if you lose anything in that, and you're using it as a level of escapism, it's like your loss is doubled essentially.
Yeah.
Because you're losing
like
the virtual thing, but then you're also having to return to like the reality that is the real world.
Yeah.
And if that already wasn't a great time, and now you've lost like your main point of escapism and happiness.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
Sadness all around.
Really, yeah, and there was a lot of fear around, especially with like something like Second Life, of like depression. And it's actually been founded that that's not entirely true, that people didn't have higher depression from playing video games.
Oh, well, yeah, no, not from video games specifically.
Yeah.
I think, like, if you put a lot of pressure into it, in the extreme form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've heard, like, there's, like, all these, like, urban legends, I'd say, of, like, someone who lost all their money on Second Life and then they killed themselves. Or someone who played D&D too much and their character of, like, 7 years and level 300 wizard died because of the dragon. And then they went and, like, killed themselves. Like, it's always something like that. Or, like, they, you know, killed everybody else. Or something ridiculous.
Which, I mean, might happen, but we don't know.
Yeah.
I need a case study.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just the thing, is like, it is kind of like these like urban legends of like, if you get too deep into the game, like you won't know what reality is and you'll be too far in to get out. And it's like, I mean, that's anything that's addictive, right? But even still, I'd say that video games they don't activate the same receptors in certain ways. Like the ones that, like, if you're playing Skyrim versus like if you're playing Candy Crush, which would in fact do that. Yeah.
It hits you different, for sure.
Yeah.
You're definitely like, I think if I was in VR, I would definitely get way too into VR.
Well, you can't, and that's the thing about VR too, is that because it's like, so it's still a little off, that our brain does get a little sick if we're in it too long.
Yeah.
And like 360 has too many rules. Like if you try, I've made 360 films, there's a lot of rules, and it's a whole different way of storytelling. That's very interesting, because it's like you have to like have the camera at the height of a person, or they're going to get really weirded out and like they won't be able to like stand it if they're too tall or too small. Like, it's kind of scary. Like, you know, or if you try to move the camera when people are supposed to be doing the movements, right? Like, it totally like jars people because it's like conflicting with the way that our brain is working. Right? Yeah. And that's another thing that's really interesting with VR and why it's cool in regards to horror is thinking about VR video games, in that horror video games in VR have this like unique way where it's molded to the interaction of the player in a way more unique way. Like now there could be like a monster that comes out of like a ceiling vent or something, but it won't unless you look over there. Yeah. You know, so it's just like it now, like our stories are even more like now we have like, you know, if you make choices, this will change the outcome of the ending. It's like, not really, like only a little bit. Like you get a different line of dialogue at the end. Yeah. Right. But now it's like really, like you could completely avoid something if you just happen to not look over there, you know? Yeah. And it is like this, it is a little more jarring in that you really are in there. And VR horror is a step over like video games, which is already a step over movies. Yeah. And that like with movies, like you said, it's on a screen, right? And it's in our world. So we can just look away. Yeah. Right? You could just like close your eyes and look away and you remember, oh, I'm in the living room, there's my cat. Right. Yeah. And with video games, it's like you have the controller. You control it, you can hit pause. Yeah. You're like, I'm done. With the VR, it's like on your head now. Yeah. And even still, like sometimes like there's ones that like are really tight. Yeah. And you need help to get them off. So you're already kind of like restricted. So you're really like in it. And it kind of takes away a little bit of like your free will in that regards, which makes it even more realistic. Yeah. Which heightens the fear, which I think is why people really, really rave about it. But it's also kind of scary.
In the way that it's like you have the headset on, so it's like like the visual and sound, and like you can build suspense in a really real way. Yeah. Where like you can hear footsteps approaching. Yeah. But it's like, it's not like it's just in your house. It's like it is in your ear. Yeah. Someone is whispering literally into your ear.
Yes.
It just makes it a lot more intense.
And it's like the 360 sound too, right? Like if something is supposed to sound like it's behind you as opposed to just like being like in your TV. Where it's just like, okay, I think that's coming from behind me. But it's really like you turn around.
Yeah.
That's your instinct. It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
And I think it could do some cool things, but it's also pretty scary.
Yeah.
Films. Yeah, films. Yeah, films. We watch some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff. And all that spooky stuff.
So we watched some things about virtual reality.
That's what we're talking about.
Video game type
You didn't
things.
know.
Yes. And actually, both of the things that we're going to talk about today are from Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think we've actually honestly talked about Black Mirror. I will say that...
Not to any real extent.
Yeah. Black Mirror will probably come up a few times during the first half of this, like, our series, because we are talking about, like, future and technology and things that are scary.
But, like, in a modern sense.
Yeah.
For the most part.
And I will say there are some winners or some fun things in Black Mirror. But the thing about Black Mirror really is, like, it's all surface level. Like, you can't really think too hard. You just have to be like, oh, what a weird thing. What if
though?
what if your microwave could kill you? It's scary, isn't it? That was super rude. Sorry, British people who make Black Mirror. But that's pretty much what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so...
Well, it's like Twilight Zone-y, but tech.
Yeah. It's like, what if your iPhone was evil? But I think there are like little nuggets that could be done better, right? But we can take them out and be like, this is what it's trying to say. Like, this is it was intended, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I've liked a lot of the Black Mirror things.
Yeah.
There's been like a few that I was like, but I still was like, I'm happy I did it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's a fun experience to just be a passive viewer on.
Yeah.
But we're going to put out our media analysis
analysis
classes.
So we'll sometimes take the fun out of it, but most of the time just make us sound smarts. So.
Yes. So we watched from the newest season. This is 2020, so that's when it's new. We watched Striking Vipers.
Yes.
Which is directed by Owen Harris.
And it is... It's not the same for every episode, so like they have different directors.
Yes.
Same writer all the time, but different directors.
Yeah, it's the creator, Charlie Booker, who kind of like comes up with a lot of these ideas, but it does change with directors, similar to how Twilight Zone works these days. So, Striking Vipers is two estranged college friends reunite in later life, triggering a series of events that could alter their lives forever, which is such a really basic way of saying what happens.
Yeah, it's real vague.
Yeah.
They don't in any way say how.
or what occurs. Yeah. Wow. It really isn't saying anything, is it? So what we have is, what is this? I'm going to get my nerd card revoked if I say it wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Falcon. Yes, Falcon. Mr. Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
He is a young adult in a club. He talks to this lady. He's like, I can guess your drink order, which is very specific. And she's like, what? And it's like, oh, it turns out they're dating. That was cute. Yeah. And his best friend shows up. And they...
Well, because he lives in the same house as them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Who is played by Yahya Abdul Mateen II. His name is Carl in it. And Anthony Mackie is Danny. Yeah. And the wife is Theo. So they all live together and they have bonded over playing this video game.
Yeah, specifically Danny and
I just said it and I totally forgot again.
The two guys.
Yeah, Carl
and Danny play Striking Vipers, but like as you would expect like Mortal Kombat to look like on like your PlayStation.
So it's like
ready, it's normal.
Fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like playing and it's like, but here's the thing. Carl always plays this female character.
Yes.
And Danny always plays this karate boy.
Lance.
Yes.
I remember his name for some reason.
That's very interesting that you remember his name. But nobody else's.
That's It sounds like how my brain works.
Yeah. So, so he always plays Lance, who's an Asian man.
Yes.
And then he plays the other character, which is not showing up on IMDb. Roxette? No.
Oh, yeah.
Roxette. Roxette, who is played by Palm Clementif from, she's Mantis.
From Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Yes.
So she's Mantis. And so they play, and that's kind of interesting. Like, and that, I mean, that's kind of like a norm. There's many, like, men who play female characters
in video
games.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they just got better stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And also it's like kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
Like I love to play different characters in any kind of role playing or things that I do, right?
Yeah.
So these two play that, and then they grow up, and now
they get older.
Yeah.
Get married.
They're adults.
Kids.
Yeah. So Anthony Mackie is married to his wife Theo, and they have a kid, and he's just living a regular dad lifestyle. He's at a cookout.
Yeah.
Carl shows up, and they just kind of like, old friends.
Yeah, like they haven't like hung out recently because like
Life.
Carl's like a single guy. He never really settled down in that sense. And then like Danny married
Straight out of
Theo
college.
and like really settled down. They have a kid. They're living like domestic-y, you know?
Yeah. Then Carl gifts Danny for his birthday the new like virtual reality, like intense video game add-on to his already existing system.
Yeah.
Where they can play Striking Vipers because it's still around.
Yeah.
And it's like new, and we love nostalgia.
Yeah.
So we were for it, right? And what I thought was cool was the technology like puts it on his head, like this little dot on his head, and then their eyes did the same like gray glass over thing that's from that one episode where you can see the memories and you have the little button and you can like rewind and see it, which was also like a very closed-minded version of what that world could have been.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? And so then they get teleported essentially into this game, like mentally. And now they are the characters. And in this one, unlike in like last week when we were talking about Sword Art, you really can feel things. Like not just because like your brain's like, I'm feeling it. And then you're like, no, actually you're not. It's like you really are.
You can feel it.
Yes.
It is real-ish.
Yeah.
Like, if you die in the game, you don't die in real life, but
you might as well.
Everything like feels really real.
And imagine being in Mortal Kombat and they're doing like those fire kicks.
Yeah.
And you're like feeling that.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Right? So they're doing that and he's getting his butt whooped. Danny is. And then there's just this moment where they're tumbling around. It's like another Star Wars fantasy moment where you're tumbling around in the flowers. And you're like, Anakin, stop. Except it's these two. And then, spoilers, they have sex.
Yeah.
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 And as soon as they kiss. I don't know if they fully went and
I think
had
at
sex.
first they kiss and like start.
Yeah. And then
he's like,
disconnect.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And he's like, nah, dude, it won't happen again. It's totally fine. And then
and then
totally
immediately, like, it's not even like kind of a thought. And then it's in there, right? And then it turns into this whole kind of spiraling out thing where it's essentially like an affair.
Yeah, it's definitely like what addictive in the way that an affair would be. Like, it's other.
Yeah.
It's not. So I feel like people like generally don't think of an affair as something that's like real because it's separate. Like, they have their life and then it's separate.
Yeah.
So it's taking that whole video game separation thing where it's like, this is a separate thing. It's not affecting the real thing. It's totally fine. It's not the case.
And then of course it does. And then it's like, it's not happening. And then we get this like kind of weird ending. But what I really think about this is that they really, really missed a chance to like be something here. Mm-hmm. There was an opportunity and they looked at it in the face and then we're like, nah. And in that, they have these two incredibly masculine, like, black men.
Yeah.
Specifically, right? Because there is, unfortunately, a lot of homophobia that happens in that community, right?
Yeah.
So we have these, which already and cause a lot of backlash because of this episode, where people were like, "What? You can't do that to Falcon? Like, what do you like? He's the new Captain America. What are you doing?" Right? And we have spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen like Endgame. But it's been out for a long time. Anyway, they really missed this opportunity because we have these two men who are Black, who are acting out these like suppressed sexual feelings for one another, right? And instead of letting it mean something, we have them like completely disregard that in the fact that they are unable to come to terms with that in reality.
Yeah.
Because when they come to reality, it's like, well, it ain't gay though. But it's cool because it ain't gay. Like it's essentially the no homo clause.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're literally having sex. Like I don't care if that's a video game. Like they're literally having sex and then being in real life and being like, but it's not real, so we're not really gay.
Yeah.
Or like even on a spectrum, like you can be attracted to them. And so then they do this really terrible like moment where they're like, they do a kiss to see if there's real passion and then there isn't. And then they end up fist fighting, which is definitely repressed sexual energy. Like, you know, it's like they just cannot do it in that reality, right?
Yeah.
And then they end up like arrested and it's like a whole time. And then we have this weird ending that really didn't seem like it fixed anything.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of articles from the creator who was like, we wanted to do something here. And then, like, this is kind of what we settled for as an ending. Like, there is a cost.
Yeah.
But it really didn't feel like they thought really hard enough about it.
Yeah.
There's also, like, there's also something to be said about the fact that Carl does play a woman. Because there are moments when he does try to explain, like, how exciting it is to play her.
Yeah.
And how it's different. Like how he's played, like he's had sex with other characters in the game. And he's also been other characters in the game. And it just isn't right. It's not her. Like this is his other identity. And he's not really talking about it. And there's like this article that I found from Polygon where it says Black Mirror Striking Vipers Review Queer Gender Issues. And it says, in one scene, Carl comments that occupying a female avatar within the world of the titular VR-enhanced video game feels more profound to him than his entire life's experience as a man, but it never comes up again.
Yeah.
It's like they have this really intimate moment where he talks about how, like, the orgasm as being as a woman is, like, phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
And then that takes a backseat to Danny wanting to be a dad. You know, which I get, right?
Yeah.
But I think, like, I was expecting them in real life to connect and then it to be like that show that we watched, Frank, what's...
I know you're talking about.
Grace and Frankie. And how, like, their husbands had repressed their life for each other forever. This, again, first episode, or you could just read about it.
Yeah.
And then they end up going and get married and now these women are, like, on their own. I'd rather be now. You know, before the second kid, that you decide that than this. And I think there's going to be more trouble based on the ending that they had, in which Theo says once a year you can have your little affair on the video game, but I get to have an affair in real life. Yeah. And I think it's like her being like, I want you to understand that that is still real. Yeah. You know, like you might be saying like it's nothing, but it is affecting your real life. I just got you out of jail. Yeah. My kid is in the backseat. Yeah. I'm pregnant as all get out. Yeah. And picked you up. This is very real. And you're going to have to come to terms with it. And what we pick up at in this ending is the first time they're doing this, right? It's only a year later. So we haven't even seen the repercussions of that. Yeah. And I just really think if they picked one of the themes, right, of like suppressed like sexual emotions or gender identity, and they ran with that, I think they would have been able to accomplish an ending easier. Yeah. And I think because they were just juggling a lot and they didn't really know what they were doing. And they were doing the thing that people tend to do, which is using stories they don't have any right to. Yeah. And then like just mucking it all up.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was complicated. There are positives. There are definitely negatives. It was definitely stressful. Yeah. Because it's like, I also fell for Theo. Like, I'm sitting there like... Yeah. Ugh.
She should have been told the truth in the beginning and should have been let go.
She loves you.
She should have been let
go. This is rude. Yeah. And also, you made a commitment, but I get you're trying to keep that commitment by, like, shutting this down, but you're also, like, making her feel like she's not enough and, like, messing with her psyche and, like, her self-worth. Because, like, you loved her yesterday, you know,
Yeah.
messes me up.
Well, here's the thing about that too, right? Is like, what is a better answer to that? Sorry that, like, you are enough. This video game is super fun and I'm addicted to having sex in it. Or I actually think that there's something about me that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
And I need to go do that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's going to hurt. Like, I'll get out now.
Yeah.
But she's going to heal from that. And you might even be able to still be friends. Versus, you love a video game.
More than
And
me,
I'm supposed to just believe that. And that's it. Like, I'm supposed
not
to
Carl.
I'm supposed to believe you're no homo. Like,
Yeah.
that's like if you're, it's like, I'm having an affair with a dude, but no homo. And she's supposed to be like, oh, okay. That's not how that works. You have to be honest about that. And it's going to really suck. But it's better that way than you making up this big lie.
Yeah.
The thing about, like, Black Mirror, what it makes me think of is American Horror Story.
Yeah.
In that, with Ryan Murphy, he gets a lot of praise, and I mean, people know how I feel about American Horror Story. He gets a lot of praise for that series as being, like, revolutionary or, like, you know, going against the grain and making statements and being, like, edgy and cool, right? But he really says nothing. He says nothing at all, and if anything, he further perpetuates really damaging stereotypes. Like, his whole Coven series was trash against women, but it was uplifted as, like, a feminist empowering series.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you look at any women in that show, they were awful. They were used by men, every single one of them, and they had no power. And also their power meant nothing. Like, it was so dumb. And so that's kind of how I feel about Black Mirror, is like, you're getting all this praise where you're like, oh, you know, like, what about...
Yeah, you gotta put those glasses on. And then once you do, it's like, oh.
Yeah. And I get it, you know. Well, and that's kind of like brings us to the second one that we watched.
Yeah. Playtest. Playtest was from an earlier season, but specifically is about an American traveler short on cash, signs up to test a revolutionary new gaming system, but soon can't tell where the hot game ends and the reality begins. Director Dan Trachtenberg. Yeah. It's stressful because, like, I would agree, like, you never really know what's real. You, like, the character doesn't know what's real, you don't know what's real. It's like a whole thing.
One thing, Dan Trachtenberg did 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Oh.
So he's good at doing the, like, you thought it was this, didn't you?
Yeah.
He is good at that.
Well, it's better.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he is very good at, like, do what surface level you think it is, or do what's, like, deep in your heart. Yeah. Or also, none of this is real. Yeah. Or it's all real. Or what are we doing? So he's very good at that. What we have is it's so, like, on the nose. This one is very on the nose. It's kind of cute. In that we have this man who's American and he's traveling the world and he's just kind of, like, doing this, like fun life.
Yeah, he's like, life at home got real quick.
Yeah.
And I am not equipped to deal with that. Because essentially, spoilers, his dad got dementia and, like, died.
Alzheimer's.
Oh, my bad. Different thing. Got Alzheimer's and died. And it was like, he was very scared that, like, when he got older, that, like, he would experience the same thing. Yeah. So he wanted to make all these memories so that, like, thinking, like, not knowing that he'd be able to hold on to them, but, like, at least knowing, like, he did something. He can have them now. Yeah.
And also he took care of his dad. Yeah. And now he's traveling the world and his mom keeps calling and he has not answered her because he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to be with her now that they both have this big hole between them, right? And so it turns out that he has been able to travel as much as he can because he has this app which allows him to take odd jobs to then make money, no matter where he is, which is, like, a pretty cool app, if I might say. Yeah. That sounds pretty dope. And that part of it was really cool to me, and I hate that it was really just kind of, like, a little bit of a plot device just kind of thrown in there for a minute. Yeah. Like, it's an interesting reveal.
It's definitely very Craigslist-y, you're gonna die kind of thing.
Right?
Like, don't trust it, though. Yeah.
But here's the thing about that, right? is that it's not Craigslist because it's an app,
Yeah.
right? Like we have this, like, again, we talked about this in our internet episode, was like, we were told not to talk to strangers and not to get into strangers' cars. But now we have an app where we do that. We summon strangers and we get into their cars.
Yeah.
So when you take it from the internet, like sketchy Craigslist, whatever, but you put it into an app, now it seems legit.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, oh, of course, I can put my clothes on Poshmark and nothing's going to happen. I won't get hacked or anything.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you just, like, don't think about that. People still meet people off of Craigslist and then they get their babies cut out of them. Like, this is real. True crime lady coming out. But he has no concept of that. Also, he's a white man. Right?
Yeah.
So he also still has no concept of stranger danger in that way either.
Yeah, he's privileged as all get out.
Yeah.
And
so,
also, like, kind of the worst. Like, everything that comes out of his mouth, I'm just like, ugh.
The thing about that, what I think is funny, is every article I read about Playtest is that they said that he was lovable. That they wrote him to be a lovable guy. And I was like, he's just really annoying. Yeah, he's supposed to be a goofy guy, but he was really annoying.
He just said every cliche that ever existed.
Yeah, he was like,
I get it. He reminds me of someone I know. I'm not going to say names. But, like, I was just like, all right, I get it. You're trying to be cute and funny.
Yeah. And I get how that's
much.
alluring to people. And he ends up meeting a girl on a Tinder-like website. Mm-hmm. And it happens that after his, like, time with her, his account gets hacked or something. He loses all his money. So now he has to do it so he can go home.
Yeah.
And she says, like, call your mom.
Yeah.
And she's even, like, kind of iffy about this app because she's a woman. And she's like, what? But she
sounds dangerous.
Yeah, but she, like, plays video games, and so she sees that the advertisement is for a video game company.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's pretty cool. Also, they're really secretive, so maybe you can take some pictures or something.
Yeah, and, like, get some stuff.
And because she writes about video games, too. So it's kind of like she allows that, whatever. So he goes to this place, and they immediately make him, like, sign an NDA. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, non-disclosure agreement.
Excellent. And that he has to give over all his electronics.
Yeah.
And he's like, darn. And that's like, how much does that hurt? Like, as anybody, like, my phone? And that's literally his lifeline.
Country I don't know. It's the only thing I have left at this
lifeline,
point.
right? And it's the only thing that's kept him afloat. And then he gives up his phone, and then they play, she shows him an AR, like, whack-a-mole thing.
Yeah.
And then...
Oh, wait, there's a important piece right before that.
Yes.
So, she doesn't have the signature page in there. So she leaves the room for a second.
Oh, yes.
And then he gets his phone back, which she has turned off, turns it back on, takes the photo and sends it to what's-her-face.
Yeah, it takes a picture of, like, the paperwork to see, like, to show, like, what kind of weird
I thought it was the game system itself.
It was like that in the paperwork that described kind of what it was, because she was like, what?
Yeah, I think it was both. So they got both. And then, like, she comes back, but he hasn't turned his phone back off. He just kind of put it
back into her bag.
So then, as you were saying.
Then he does the AR thing. And then they also inserted something in him, which is, like, a big no. I would have been like, sorry, I need money, but not this bad.
Yeah.
Especially if I just took the picture, I'd be like, I have to go now.
Yeah, like, you're messing with my brain. I'm done now, yeah.
But they stick some in his brain, and he plays that, and he sees it, and he's like, wow, that's so cool. And then she's like, wow, you did that really well. Can you do this other one that no one else has done? And I was like, that's, again, another red flag. But white boy don't get it.
Yeah, he
that's just kind of how that works.
Concept of fear.
Yeah, and then he meets the developer, and he feels really important, and then they put him under for a scary game. And they walk him physically out to a house, and then they're like, in this house, your AR stuff is going to activate, but it's not real. But then things start to hurt him.
Yeah.
And he sees there's some really good scare, like, spoofs. Yeah. And, like, there's spiders, and there's, like, a creepy guy, and then there's, like, a twist.
Spider that is the creepy guy. Like,
yeah, it was a lot. But then it starts to take this, like, turn.
Yeah.
And then... like, you can see that his mind is turning on him. Uh-huh. And now we really, really don't know what's real anymore. Yeah. Because he's unreliable now. Yeah, he's and what we're seeing is unreliable. Yeah. And then, we're just getting deeper and deeper, and he's calling out, and then it's like they're tormenting him and it seems like they're evil, and then the real ones show up and they're like, oh no, he's broken.
Yeah.
And he's losing his memory.
Yeah.
And he's like, who are you people? Which was so heartbreaking because it's like,
yeah, that was like your biggest fear, dude.
his dad. And then it's like, psych, we're not there either. We're over here and we've gotten him out Inception-like, and he's back in the office with the developer, and now we're going to send you home. And he gets all the way home and he finally talks to his mom in person. And she's like, where's my son? Why did he go? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm right here. And it's like, psych, he still isn't there. Turns out the game lasted all of like 3 seconds. Then his phone rang again with his mom because she's still trying to get in touch with him. If only he had called his mother. This is a warning for all. This is like the mom made this movie.
Yeah.
And, and then because of the phone call, it messed with the frequencies, buzzed his brain. He's dead. But what we're led to believe is that he isn't really dead. He's living those nightmares.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if only he had called his mom, she wouldn't be calling out that moment. Also, if he had paid attention and done what he was told, it wouldn't have been open.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have made some money.
Yeah. Would have been a fun time.
Yeah.
No big deal.
So, moral of the story is call your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So that one was like, that's what that was.
Virtual reality.
There was an article by Vox.com, Black Mirror Season 3 Playtest Recap, and it says, for a show that serves as a warning about our dependence on tech, this is a sly little argument that the greatest threat to yourself isn't the strangers you meet through your phone, but rather your own dishonesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it really was like, the technology really wasn't malicious in any way.
It was just him.
Although, I will say that the developers were. Because when he came in, he was just like, put him with the others.
Yeah.
Like, clearly this has happened before. And he was just kind of like, this was not a real person to him.
Yeah.
Or people don't
This
matter.
is a tool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tech, man.
Yeah, feelings. Yeah, I said feelings. Let's talk about feelings. Okay. And all that spooky stuff. I love spooky stuff.
All right, so if you like it, it's Second Life rules.
Yeah, like my Second Life's way better than my real life. I want to just be in here.
In a Second Life, you can own a home. That's like every millennial's like, what? What are you doing?
Have you seen my credit?
What are you talking about?
Let's get this virtual house.
Debt.
No one's
Heck
looking at me.
They don't even check my credit because it's all new here. I didn't even have to go to school. I could learn that. You could just get to like a tech degree, or you can get like practical experience. Okay, but if you don't like it, you should have called your mom,
Yeah.
guy. Like, just call her. Although that's kind of like the word. You should have talked to her before you left, but I get it.
Yeah.
But also that, or just like follow rules.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about virtual reality?
I'm so for it.
Yeah.
But I'm getting older.
Yeah.
I'm a little scared. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool. And I definitely, like, want to do it. Mm-hmm. But I'm also scared of it.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely have a lot of apprehension. Also, it's not gonna get me over my water fear. So, they can try.
The water ones are pretty cool, though. It's pretty cool, because you can see, like, nice fish. But you can't even do, like, video games. So it's kind of, like, weird for you. I think just because I just have my first, like, interaction with VR really has been from an educational standpoint.
Yeah.
From, like, a media standpoint of, like, how can we empower our communities? Because I'm a big nerd about it. That, to me, I'm like, yeah, I'll play Beat Saber. Like, I don't see this as, being harmful. And also, like, I think, like, the scary ones are fun.
I want to play the scary one. I want to play it, yeah.
I think they would be more, like, I think the creeping around, I probably could do a little better if it was a VR experience versus when I'm playing it as a video game. Because I think, like what you said, because it would be me playing versus me playing as somebody else.
Yeah.
And me is good at sneak.
Yeah.
Not me, not good sneak.
Me would be, oh no! Oh, I knocked over the flower pot. It was important.
Yeah.
I've fallen. I don't know how. I forgot the gravity in the game was different than real life.
Yeah. Why do they have these doors open?
How did you dislocate your kneecap? Virtual reality.
I
I just got really into it.
Yeah.
Forgot it wasn't real.
I think it could be really fun. You still are, I guess new media would be scary in that I'll never put anything actually in my head.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
But the thing about Sword Art is that it wasn't
It was just the headset.
It was just the headset.
But
which
it, like,
is
had enough power to microwave your brain.
Yikes. Yikes and bikes.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't want that.
But I probably would. I still wouldn't get a game as soon as it came out. I always wait for the kinks to get worked out.
So like,
And
I do
I'm
that
always
too.
late.
Just because like I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't remember everyday stuff. So like, I don't have enough capacity to like track something.
Yeah.
But then also like,
I'm always
who's gonna spend
notoriously late.
$2,000 on something? Like, no.
Yeah, and you know it would be.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it could. I think overall. Oh well. Wait, how do you feel about striking vapors?
I think if you don't have the glasses on, it's a fun time. If
Yeah.
you do have the glasses on, you see the stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't expecting what it was,
Yeah.
and that was nice. And then
Yeah.
I was like, but does it? And that's just because I'm a brat. But I also, you really can't look for anything more if you're gonna watch Black Mirror. If you're gonna watch Black Mirror, you got to know it's just all pretty.
Yeah.
It's just like, ooh, and that's
What
it.
if though?
Yeah, that's all you can do. You cannot ask for more. And if you don't, it's really pleasant. The same thing with Playtest. The first time I watched it, I totally like forgot it. I was like, this isn't even kind of scary.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, okay, he's like Inception. He's dead. He's not dead. He's dead. And I was like, oh, okay. But that still wasn't as exciting because there was already that one episode with John Hamm where they were in the like bunker, and then it turned out that he like would go into the guy's brain to try to get him to confess to like a murder, and that was like a really big twist, and that was cool because I didn't know I was in virtual reality, and that was sick.
Yeah.
But I knew it wasn't as cool, and so, and also like because now that's already old technology, like AR is unimpressive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think yeah, the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely feel like the first time I watch anything, I usually don't have my media analysis glasses on unless we're watching it specifically for the Ghouls.
Yeah.
And then, like, I feel like this New Year, New Me thing, it's like, I've been sick.
Yeah.
I've been like, meh. So, I've been like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking about it. So, like, I'm happy you were here thinking about it.
I got you.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. I love VR stuff. So,
Yeah.
don't get married.
Delete your kids. Yeah. Or they won't call you because your husband just died. And you're all alone.
Or your papa neglects you because he can't come to terms with the fact that he might be gay
Yeah.
and in love with his best friend.
Yeah.
And instead he just neglects you by playing video games. We've all been there.